Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Iranian, died in police custody after being arrested for improperly wearing her hijab in public. A United Nations report revealed that she was severely beaten by Iranian authorities during her 3-day detention. Protests have erupted across Iran, demanding accountability for her death and an end to violence and discrimination towards women in the country. Iranian officials have claimed that Amini died of a heart attack, but international condemnation has led to sanctions against Iran's morality police and senior security officials. The US and other countries have called for an end to the systemic persecution of women in Iran, and for those who violate human rights to be held accountable. Adding fuel to the fire, a series of gas poisonings in female schools has also sparked outrage. Iran has seen a series of poisonings, affecting almost 700 schoolgirls since November 2022, causing respiratory problems, nausea, dizziness and fatigue. Some believe this is an attempt to force schools to close. No deaths have been reported. However, hundreds of schoolgirls have been affected by suspected poisoning attacks over the past 3 months, with some ending up hospitalized. Officials initially dismissed these incidents, but now acknowledge the attacks involve some 30 schools. Some speculate the attacks could be aimed at trying to close schools for girls in the country. The attacks have raised fears that other girls could be poisoned, apparently just for seeking an education. The poisonings come at a sensitive time for Iran, which has faced months of protests, and getting verifiable information out of Iran remains difficult, given the crackdown on all dissent. The Prosecutor General is conducting a criminal investigation, but has said only that there is a possibility of criminal and premeditated acts. Public frustration is growing, with protests and calls for action from authorities. Qom, a religious city, has seen the most incidents. Some speculate the attacks may be payback for schoolgirls' role in protests, or an attempt to copy the Taliban or Boko Haram by terrorizing parents. Officials have been criticized for vague and misleading statements about the attacks. While some speculate that the poisonings are the work of religious fundamentalists, a lawmaker denies this and demands that classes be held online until the mystery is solved. Others have attributed the attacks to underground Shiite groups or doomsday cults who are infuriated by young female students' anti-regime protests and refusal to wear the hijab. The poisonings, apparently by gas, have now spread to several other cities in Iran. Victims have reported smelling something like bleach or peppermint before their symptoms emerged, which include nausea, headaches, and difficulty breathing. Despite reports of a schoolgirl dying from the poisonings, state media denies any connection between her death and the school attacks. The Deputy Education Minister claims that the poisonings were intentional, and that some people wanted all schools, especially girls' schools, to be closed, but insists that the chemical compounds used were not of weapons grade, and that aggressive treatments were not required for the symptoms. The flaring story of Mahsa Amini has broadened the protest movements in Iran, where a resurgence in protest activity along with increased turnout has been recorded in recent days. On February 19, at least 12 small protests occurred in 10 cities across 8 provinces in Iran. The protests were organized by various demographic groups, including retirees, cultural actors, bakers, and factory workers. Additionally, some casein company workers and municipal workers also protested. It is reported that protesters in Sagez, Kurdistan province, are reportedly preparing for further unrest and have begun stockpiling materials to fight security forces. Moderate and reformist politicians are renewing their calls for the regime to address protester grievances. Former Rouhani administration First Vice President Eshar Jahangiri has called on regime loyalists and supporters to show their credibility and address protester grievances. Iran continues to face severe economic issues, which may fuel increased political attacks against President Ibrahim Raisi and his administration. Raisi, however, has pledged to stabilize the national currency, and parliamentarians are suggesting summoning him and his ministers for questioning. It is unclear what pattern of anti-regime activity will characterize this new phase of protests. The worsening economic conditions in Iran are fueling political attacks against President Ibrahim Raisi and his administration. Western media outlets report lingering discontent throughout the Iranian population, indicating conditions remain present for significant anti-regime protests. Western media outlets like CNN have reported on the existence of 36 detention facilities, where anti-regime dissidents were brutally tortured, with some makeshift centers located in the besieged centers of local mosques. Thanks for watching the video.